you can't expect him to step up when he's shown that he doesn't. They should
This
be better.
is beautiful. You cannot tell me different. Not necessarily his fault,
It
but
was his fault. I'm saying that 100%. He does not deserve this.
What's up? Welcome back to Gary's Basement, your one stop for all hockey news. Today we are starting the off-season podcasts and previews of the next season. So today we'll be covering the first half of the Atlantic Division, the Boston Bruins, Buffalo Sabres, Detroit Red Wings, and Florida Panthers. Our first team on the podcast will be the Boston Bruins. Last year finished 8th, dead last in the Atlantic, with 76 points, 33, 39, and 10. Their leading scorer was David Pastrnak with 106 points. The next behind him was Morgan Geekie with 57. It was a rough year for the Bruins, and they made some offseason moves, so let's get into what we think of the offseason so far for Boston and what that'll look like transferring into next season.
Kind of the basics for what happened to Boston this season. They signed a lot of players, at least 12 signings since the draft alone. And not a lot of real standouts just yet. A lot of positional players that are going to play into the team long term. The main guys that stand out to me for their guys is they extended Morgan Geekie to a 6-year deal at $5.5 million. He's a good quality player for Boston, and now he's locked up there for a good long while. Same for Tanner Jeannot, who they got from the LA Kings. Jeannot's been a good depth player for the Kings for a while, and I think he'll fit in nicely with Boston's style of play. And Shane Corrally, however you say it, Sean Corrally. They signed him to a 2-year deal, $1.5 million. All three of those players are good, and then they signed a bunch of other players, usually on 1 or 2-year deals, just to kind of depth things up. They signed one goalie since the draft, Michael DiPietro, to a 2-year deal. And so we'll see what happens with that depth type of play. They've still got obviously a lot of good depth players, but last year was a disaster, and they're really going to need to do a lot to turn it around and try and get back into the form of Boston that we're used to. It was really surprising to see them. I honestly, straight up, I think this past year was a fluke, and I think they'll make the playoffs this year.
I don't know about that. Honestly, Boston is historically, one of the greatest teams. I am a Boston fan, but Boston is historically one of the greatest teams in NHL history, original 6. And lately, they've been expecting second liners best to play as first liners. You saw people like Coyle, who 2 years ago stepped up, but he got traded away last year because he just wasn't playing as well. But Geekie, I think, is a genuine good re-sign. And he obviously is not a first line player, but last year he had 33 goals, 24 assists for 57 points. He had the best season of his career, even though the team was bombing. And I just think you can't have a team that is consistently making playoff runs if you're expecting players that are not of the caliber of any first liners around the NHL. Pastrnak at this point is obviously such a good player, such a good playmaker, amazing shot, but you can't expect him to carry the Bruins. He doesn't have the hustle you saw at the beginning of last year. He doesn't have the hustle of any of the other players. It seems sort of to me, watching at the beginning of the year, that he got the 8-year deal and he said, okay, I'm good. And he sort of gave up. So I'd like to see him play more like he did at the end of last year. Obviously finishing with 106 points is incredible. And yeah.
I think the big thing for Boston is finding some help for Pastrnak, You see him with 106, and then Geeky was the next best with 57. If you told me 3 years ago that Boston would be in the position that the Blackhawks are currently with Pasternak in the position of Bedard at 29 years old, I would have been shocked. But the wheels have fallen off so quickly in Boston. In my opinion, it's already like way sooner than expected and maybe even rushed. It's already, I think, time you start switching into a rebuild because Pasternak is really your only option to build around at this point, and he's already 29 years old. So you can go for a few more years with Pasternak, but you got to really be aggressive in the offseason. And Victor Arvidsson and Tanner Jeannot are good pickups, but I think they're expecting too much from these people. None of these guys are quality line mates for Pasternak. I know Pasternak put up 106 points with the team he had last year, so I don't doubt he's still going to have a good year. But you kind of, if you're Boston, you have to decide, is it rebuild time or is it time to build around Pasternak? Because in 3 years, whenever Pasternak's contract expires, then you're in a tough position if you've been trying to just keep your head above the water. But if you're already rebuilding, I don't know. It's a really tough decision in Boston because it came upon them so quickly. But I feel like you have to make that decision pretty early on. If you're going to go one way or the other.
Definitely that trade for Victor Arvidsson, just a fifth round pick given up. That's going to be a great addition. But also, I would love to see them add onto that defense. Drop off in the goalies and on the defensive side. I feel like they could bolster up that defense, and I feel like they could easily be a contender. But especially the goalies, Jeremy Swayman had a much worse year from 2 years back, where Jeremy Swayman had a 311 goals against average this year and an 892 save percentage, 22 and 29, 7 OT losses. When the year before this past year, he had a 253 goals against average and 916 save percentage, and played a less games, but 25 wins, 10 losses, 8 OT losses. So he definitely took a step back. Not necessarily his fault. Could have easily been a drop off in the defensive end as well. But
it was his fault. I'm saying that 100%.
Also,
I love him, but man.
Also want to highlight their draft pick. Picked at 7, James Higgins was in the middle of the year, was projected to go number 1. Ended up dropping to pick number 7 on draft day. If you're a Boston fan, you got to be happy about that. James Higgins playing at Boston College right now, I believe. Rumors that he might not play in the NHL, might go back to Boston College. Higgins has said himself he wants to make the roster this year, so he's going to be trying to prove himself in development camp, training camp, and all that. So that's going to be a fun story to watch because I think that could be the steal of the draft.
I believe that Boston is going to be a very flip-flop team next year. It's either their goalies are going to step up and everybody's going to start having a good year, they're going to start clicking, or it's just going to be another year like this year. I don't know if you want to trust the goalies that you have right now or move, but there's got to be something done for that defensive end because, yes, Pasternak is holding up the offense, but who's holding up the defense? There needs to be some people stepping up on the defense and definitely in the goaltending aspect of it. And if we see that, I honestly think Boston could be a contending team next year. As they're not a bad team overall, just there's a couple things that need to be done to be a good team next year.
I would say that a huge part of last year's flop was the expected performance from Elias Lindholm and the expected performance from Zadorov. They were not incredible. Elias Lindholm has been an all-star the past few seasons, and he played at the level of a third liner. And you're not expecting that from a guy. You're expecting to be your first line center. You're expecting to be, obviously you can't replace Bergeron ever. But a couple years after his retirement, you're expecting a guy with a similar play style, two-way player. I was disappointed in his performance. And I mean, Zadorov as well. Zadorov, I think 2 years ago, playing for the Canucks in the playoffs, you saw his talent. He had sort of a similar performance to what Mikkola did late in the playoffs last year. Just the offensive push. He was scoring. I mean, obviously you can't expect a defenseman to do that, and with his dimensions, he's a huge guy. He's got, I mean, powerful physicality, but he still has the capability to step up, and I would really like to see that more, especially now that you've gotten rid of, I mean, not offensive players, but now that you've gotten rid of Carlo, who is one of your best defensemen, who, I mean, was a little inconsistent at times, but he still, I mean, he was a pretty good defenseman. He was your second line defenseman. So I would just like to see those players who are expected to be more step up as well. I won't go on a monologue for much longer, but Pavel Zacha, he is not a scorer. He is not a finisher. You see so many times where he gets a perfect pass from Pastrnak and just whiffs on it. You can't expect him to step up when he's shown that he doesn't. And it's just, I mean, I think that Asimon is going to be one of the better players for the Bruins next year. He is a grinder. And I think that he will fit well in the coming year with the play style of the Bruins. That physical, big body, rough. Yeah, I'm excited. And kind of not.
Yeah, I just want to look at their defense a sec too. Hampus Lindholm, the other Lindholm, only played 17 games, so that did need Zadorov to step up because when you're out that much, you need somebody to step up. So Zadorov had to play in that first line role. McAvoy, I feel like as a Boston fan, I'm not a Boston fan. Of course, I can't say anything. But you have McAvoy now, only 27 years old, put up 23 points in 50 games, so he was injured a good amount, but you get a defenseman to help him out, I feel like you can really see improvement, especially on that back end. Injuries were a part of the season for them, especially Lindholm on that defensive end. Hampus Lindholm, I think you would have loved to see him play more. That would have been good for them.
A few people have been mentioning like playoff push, like borderline contender stuff for Boston. I just want to straight up say I do not think so at all. Coming from a fan of a bad team, the Chicago Blackhawks, Boston scored less goals than Chicago Blackhawks. Just saying, goals for it. Boston had less than Chicago. 28th in the league goals for, 26th in the league goals against, a 29th power play in the league, close to the bottom of the league, 24th penalty kill. So they were just bad in a lot of levels. You got a new coach coming in, Marco Sturm, assistant coach in LA for 4 years, and he's been an AHL coach for the last 3 years. Maybe you change that changes the special teams a little bit and can help you out. But I think even with all that said, it takes a lot to go from a season that they just had to a playoff contender, and I don't think they've done a lot that enough. And I think the Atlantic's going to be pretty competitive as well. So I see Boston still finishing at the bottom of the Atlantic.
Yeah, we got Jeremiah. You still think they're going to end at the bottom? I think right now is a good time to move on to the next team, but also give predictions for the Boston. Final predictions. Where are they going to end in the Atlantic? Nathaniel, you go first.
I think they might be out of the picture for the playoffs. I think they're going to be not super far out of the wild card spot. I would say one or two places around the same place that Buffalo is. I say they're going to be a similar team to Buffalo in the fact that they have potential. They might have streaks where they play well, but ultimately they're going to be out of the picture.
I did say I think they can go to the playoffs, but but they need a lot to go right. I think they can get a lot to go right, but as of now, they're not a playoff team. They're gonna need some people to step up if they're gonna even try for it. I think if they do get in, it will be in a wild card or yeah, it won't be a it will be a squeak by if they get into the playoffs this year.
And of course, we're looking at three more teams after this. We're looking at Buffalo and Detroit next, so they're right above Boston. I think it's gonna be a really boom or bust type of thing for Boston. Hopefully, they can get the likes of James Higgins in there. Hopefully, you'll see him get some reps. And yeah, I think they're either going to be wild card or they're going to be bottom of the Atlantic. They need to have everything go right if they want to be top. If they want to be in the find themselves in the playoffs, I don't see it happening. I think they're going to be around the same place, of course, because likes of Buffalo and Red Wings are moving up. I would say, especially Buffalo. So that's a perfect segue into Buffalo, who we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah, so the Buffalo Sabres last year finished seventh in the Atlantic, second last, just ahead of Boston. They were 26th in the league, 36, 39, and 7. The goals for, they were 10th in the league, ahead of teams such as the Edmonton Oilers. The offensive output is there. Goals against, 30th in the league. So bottom of the league for goals against. So very different. A lot of the times you see these teams very close numbers, but very one side to one side for offense to defense. The power play, 24th in the league. Penalty kill, 23rd in the league. Tage Thompson was your leading scorer, with Rasmus Dahlin and Alex Tuck coming behind them. Yeah, this team I feel like has so much potential, and so they're the youngest team in the NHL. They have so much potential that's there, but I feel like that's also said every year. Um, but a lot has gone on this offseason for Buffalo, so yeah, let's see what you guys think. Where the next steps here are for the Sabres.
There's something to be said, I think, for team chemistry. I honestly believe that team chemistry is way more important than having a bunch of stars. I mean, obviously you saw last year in Nashville. Nashville is expected to be a great team, played completely awful. I think the same thing happened for the team we just talked about, the Bruins. They had the chemistry 2 years ago, even though they didn't have the greatest team. They had almost the same roster, and then they lost it last year. And I think that if Buffalo finds a way to have team chemistry, not just on the offensive end, I mean, with Tage Thompson having one of the most powerful shots in the NHL, you saw him a couple years ago clocking in at almost or over 100 miles per hour with that one 4-goal game. Incredible. Incredible. He has so much power. He's, 6'7"? He can unleash. But having that team chemistry to not only play offensively, but defensively and communicate, I think that will be a huge thing. I mean, it's a thing to be said for any team in the NHL, but a team as young and promising as this, that would be incredible for them.
They had the 10th best goals for in the league, and their leading scorer had 72 points. The points are so well spread across this team. It's really exciting, like, to see like this team hockey. They're a young team. Lindy Ruff is a great coach, in my opinion. So I feel like they have a lot of good pieces. It's just like, I don't know, Buffalo. It just always something goes wrong.
Just like the Buffalo Bills. Talking about hockey though. No, Tage Thompson, 27-year-old. They still have him for 4 more years. I think you see him be over a point per game player next year. Krebs, Norris, Zucker, Tuck, Greenway, Quinn. And then on the defensive end, you have Dahlin, you have Owen Power, you have Byram if they re-sign him. You got Doan from Paterka trade. I would love to see them get rid of Jordan Greenway. Put Doan in there, get rid of Greenway, get a goalie, because Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen is not doing it. 55 games played, 320 goals against average, and an 887 save percentage.
I would say, going off the goaltending, Devin Levi had a very small sample size in the NHL, and it did not go well. 412 goals against, 872 save percentage. But he played. They sent him down to the AHL, and he played really well in the AHL, especially in the Calder Cup playoffs. He was one of the best goalies in the playoffs, and I don't know. I feel like you could see him make that jump, but I don't know if you can consider him your number one. I feel like you're right about having to target a goalie.
I think that should be the look for them in the offseason. They got rid of Paterka, got Doan. Hopefully he can get into that lineup. I think Doan's a great player from the Utah Mammoth. And Greenway could be biased, but he used to play on the Wild. Kind of don't like him now that he's gone. Uh, I think you could get some value from that, and I think you could get a goalie, which is clearly the biggest need of that team. They have Darlene, they have Tage Thompson, they have the pieces. They need to put them all together. Talking about chemistry, need to put it all together.
One question: what the heck happened to Devin Levi? Because he was looking so promising as the future of the goaltending of their organization. As I mean, like Craig Anderson retired. I'm not saying that he was good, but he retired, and he had a couple games a couple years ago where he was looking like the absolute future of this organization. And what happened?
Currently not signed. I hope they sign him, cause what a great name. No, I think there's so much upside on the kid. Uh, 7th round pick by the Florida Panthers a few years back. It'd be great to see him come into the Buffalo Sabres, help them out a lot. But I think a trade is definitely what they want to do. If they want to get good now, I think they can make a playoff push this season. I think they'll do anything to do that.
Yeah, I've always liked the Sabres. I've really wanted them to get good for a while, and I think they're getting close. They're getting really, really close. They got the pieces, and yeah, I think the goaltending is what's holding them back right now. If they can figure that out, I could see them being like a team kind of like the Oilers, where for the longest time they did struggle with goaltending, and they had all the pieces,
They still do.
but they they still do a little bit. Um, but I mean they turned it around. They made it to the championship. So I mean, just it shows how I mean they were not getting that far into the playoffs or in the playoffs at all for a while there, and then just that you switch the goalie up a little bit and give somebody the starting position, and that could be enough. So
And I mean, you can't stress enough on the potential of this team. Darlene, 25. Owen Power, 22. Byram, if they sign him, 24-year-old. That whole defense is great. Samuelson, only 25. Kesserling, only 25. Timmins, 26. They have to re-sign him as well. The age of this team is beautiful. They got Benson, who's only 20. I think that's another player they try and build around. They have two players that are older than 30. You just don't see that.
I think though, as much as the youth development is good, you need a veteran presence, and I think you need somebody on the defensive end. As much as I like Darlene and I like these defensive guys, on paper they look like a good defensive team. You know these guys, they're household names. They're good defensemen. They're well known. But 30th goals against in the league, something's got to change. Puzzle pieces have to come together. These guys either have to start being able to click together, or you got to get a veteran presence in there that can get some kind of connection and chemistry on the defensive end. Because you've got the guys. I don't think these. I don't want to say these guys aren't your future, but something's got to change. You gotta figure something out on the defensive end.
I feel like it comes up again and again and again. Veteran presence, good communication, good on ice presence. Everybody knows each other. If you get those things clicking, I mean, as a if you work as a team, both the offense and the defense working together to score goals and keep goals out of your net, that's what you need to be a good team. And I feel like if the Buffalo Sabres do that, they've got a good chance.
All right, I think we should probably wrap up talking about the Buffalo Sabres by saying where we think that they would place.
I see him.
Me personally,
You go.
or
you
you.
go.
You? Okay.
Okay. They sign a few people. Byram. Keep Byram. Maybe make a trade for a goalie. Maybe make a trade for a veteran defenseman. I see them, and they should be in a win now mindset. I feel like with the roster they have, I see them in like wild card. I can see them easily break the wild card and be top 3 in the Atlantic.
Wow.
I'll go next. I think that's tough to say. The Atlantic has got some really good teams, and we're just doing the first 4 today, but I could already tell how hard of a decision it is going to be to predict where these teams line up. I just think Buffalo has so much upside. I have them down as a +2, up from 7th last year to 5th. I think borderline playoff team. I think the puzzle pieces just need to come together. I think you have the stuff. It just needs to start clicking, which I feel like is always the case with Buffalo. You felt like that for a number of years now. But I do think you see improvement. I think there's a little bit of opening available for them to move up in the standings in the Atlantic. So I see them finishing 5th, borderline playoff wildcard team. Yeah, I think they could be a fun team to watch, though.
I think as they sit right now, I totally agree with that, with a 5th or 6th spot, because they just don't have the goaltending to make it to the playoffs. If they can figure that out, or if the goaltenders can step up, I think they might have a chance at the playoffs. But right now, that's almost out of the question for them, I think.
I think of the two teams we've discussed so far, that Buffalo will be the better team, ending up probably about the 5th, squeaking in the wild card spot, possibly. And yeah.
All right, so as I just mentioned with the Atlantic, there's so much intrigue, so much of things could go so many ways. And I feel like every year the Red Wings are one of those teams that brings a lot of intrigue and can be so unpredictable. The years you think they're going to be good, they're not, and the years you think they're not going to be good, they surprise people. So I feel like they're a very hard team to predict. Last year finished 6th, 86 points, 39, 35, and 8, so just above 500. Goals for 22nd in the NHL, goals against 21st. Their power play was a 4th in the NHL, really good. Penalty kill was 32nd. So definitely got to figure out something there, because can't put together a winning team with a terrible penalty kill. So I think special teams is going to be a big thing for them. Lucas Raymond led the team, 80 points. DeBrincat and Larkin right behind with 70. Yeah, I think I like the offseason moves that they made. But yeah, let's see what you guys think about how the puzzle pieces fit with the Red Wings.
They
This-
should be better.
Is beautiful. You cannot tell me different. You have Lucas Raymond being the
I
leading
can tell you.
scorer. He's 23. You have a veteran Patrick Kane. You have DeBrincat. You have Larkin. You have Andrew Kopp. You have now Van Riemsdyk. You have JT Compher. You have Mason Appleton. You have Rasmussen. You have Casper, who put up 37
Who is
points
that?
in 70. Marco Casper. He's 21 years old. Put up 37 points in 77 games. They're nice and young, but they have the thing you have to love. We were just talking about they're young, about the Buffalo Sabres. They're young, but they need somebody old. They have Sider, Sherratt's 34, playing with him. They have Gustafson, an older defenseman as well. Goalies, they picked up Gibson. Gibson is free of the Ducks. That move, I think.
No. The Ducks are free of him. He is not good anymore. No. You came from last year having Cam Talbot, one of the best goalies in the NHL, and you're talking about John Gibson.
Cam
I think
Talbot.
that's a huge
Cam Talbot is one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL. He's been passed around. He does not deserve this.
I don't know about that.
Loyalty in the
do.
NHL.
I
No,
do.
but John Gibson, 29 games played, 277 goals against average, 912 save percentage. So that looks great. Would love to see them get younger maybe at the goalie, because they have a 31-year-old Gibson. That's not old. But Talbot is 37. all around, this team is the Buffalo Sabres if they get a couple veterans and a good goaltender. I feel like that's the best way to explain it. The upside is amazing, especially with Lucas Raymond, a 23-year-old, being your leading scorer when you have likes like Larkin, Kane, and DeBrincat. Untapped potential. And it's gonna be curious. It's gonna be fun to see where they go with it.
I do like that they have both Gibson and Talbot. Talbot is the better goalie. I will stand by that. I will stand by that all day. I know this is getting a little off topic, but he does not deserve to be passed around. The amount of teams he has been on, and he has been incredible. I mean,
Not for the Wild.
I will say,
he
out
was. He was good
of
for
the
the
two, out of the two, he is the better goalie. Out of the two of them, I think he is the better goalie.
I think you guys
the
are
veteran-
underestimating John Gibson because he was on the Ducks.
No,
John Gibson is not a bad goaltender.
John Gibson is not a bad goaltender, but the past few years, he has absolutely sucked. And that,
277 goals against average, 991 save percentage. 912.
Cam
save
Talbot
percentage.
has a 293 and a 201 save percentage. Gibson
there's
is
a reason that when they had Stolarz, he became the number one goalie.
Okay, we
because
should
he was
probably not
young.
get
That was the
too
only reason.
so excited about the Red Wings. I honestly see them as being a very similar team to last year, which obviously was not a playoff team. Bear with me.
No, you're
I don't
wrong.
know. I am less inclined to believe the hype with Detroit from experience,
Stop talking.
but also I just don't think they have done. Gibson's a good pickup. Van Riemsdyk's a good pickup. Appleton's a good pickup. Keeping Kane is big because he's going to be a core piece to your team. As a Blackhawk fan, I wanted to see him go to Winnipeg because now I have to cry myself to sleep watching Taves and Kane play against each other. But yeah. That being said, I don't believe the Detroit hype.
I mean, this offense. Who's stopping this offense? Like, this offense is a work of art.
The
Clearly, somebody is.
Gibson is gonna prove Nathaniel wrong. He is the better goaltender.
Be my guest. I would be happy for him to do that. I want the
Yeah.
Red Wings to do well.
And he has now such a good, not such a good defense, but he has a good defense.
the biggest thing for this team is figuring out your special teams. You can have a great defense, but if you can't keep the puck out of your net on the penalty kill, I mean, stay out of the box. But
Yeah.
you got to figure out the special teams. I mean, the power play is already there. The power play, one of the best power plays in the
Yeah.
league. So you got to keep that rolling. But I think they're a decent even strength team as well. But yeah, just you get on that penalty kill, and that can lose you games. And close games that makes or break a playoff team. So power play, penalty kill goals that you're letting up can cost you to miss the playoffs, which I think cost them a pretty good chance this past season too.
The fact that you have Larkin in one of his best forms right now is a huge piece. A huge piece. Because he is so massively underrated. I mean, obviously he's an all-star, but I mean, he got so overshadowed in his draft class. Obviously. He was, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was 2016. He was
14.
I think he was 14.
That's what it says on his
Doesn't
14?
matter.
Actually,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I gotta do research because I remember. Hold up.
That's what it said. But yeah, looking at their projected lines right now, that top line might have 300 points. Like, Raymond, Larkin, DeBrincat. Larkin 28, DeBrincat 27, Raymond 23. Then you get to the second line. 30-year-old Andrew Kopp. I think he'll be a great player for them. I think he'll I think he's a perfect fit there. Like, I know he's been there, but I think he will improve from last year. He's with Kane. He's with a 21-year-old Casper. Yeah, Andrew Kopp didn't have the best of years last year, 23 points in 56 games. If they put all this stuff together, I see them being another team in the easily top 5. I think they're more likely to be in that third position. I think they can crack the top 3.
I might have been wrong about the draft class. I thought I remembered getting a card of him in a different draft class, but either way, the people ahead of him were the story of the playoffs. The first 4 picks: Aaron Ekblad, Sam Reinhart, Leon Draisaitl, Sam Bennett. Those are the first 4. And then going into the next couple, you have William Nylander, Nikolai Ehlers, Kevin Fiala, and then he got selected at number 15. All of those players have overshadowed him his entire career.
And I think the reason why, especially now, why he's so underrated is the lack of success. Not even his fault, but the lack of success of the Detroit Red Wings has been disappointing with him on the team.
I'd like to see where all you guys think they're going to end up because apparently we can't agree on their goaltending. So,
Hey, their goaltending is good, but I think that out of the 3 teams we've talked about, they're going to be the higher placed one. And if Buffalo does somehow make the wild card, if a miracle occurs and that happens, then the Red Wings will be number 1 in the wild card spot. I don't think they can crack in the standings going into the playoffs. I don't think they can crack top 3. So yeah, first wild card spot is where I'm saying they'll end up.
I'd take John Gibson over Bobrovsky.
This
Peter
is feeling like
Oh
Lakers
my
in 5
goodness.
right now. This is feeling. This is.
I do believe that I can see a wild card spot in their future. Again, it's hard to predict like any other sport or anything else, but I think with the right things going right, I think they're easily a wild card team.
I think, looking at the whole Atlantic, I know we're talking about 4 teams. I feel like I see everyone moving up. But that just can't happen. And I feel like everyone is on their way up, except maybe the Toronto Maple Leafs, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Florida. I feel like they all have to get worse, but I feel like Ottawa, Montreal, Detroit, Buffalo, maybe not Boston. I think Boston will just stay where they are. But I think all those
I
other
resent that, but I think it's true. Okay.
I think all those other teams are going to move up. I think the sky's the limit with all those other teams.
Now you're starting to understand what I'm saying about Detroit here. I'm seeing the big picture, and what I just said about Buffalo, like you said, I think the Atlantic is moving up, and you might not like this, but I don't think Detroit is moving enough with it. It's like the Lightning McQueen scene where the new cars are coming in and they're getting left behind. No, I'm bad.
McQueen is fading.
But I do think they finished the same as last year or worse, not necessarily because of their team, but because of the competition. I don't really see them as like getting a ton worse. Like that's not what I'm saying. But I do think it's going to be a more competitive playoff push, and I don't know if they have it in them. So I actually see Buffalo finishing in front of Detroit. Yeah, and this is a hard decision. The Atlantic is very hard for me to say confidently that someone's going to finish anywhere, but I see Buffalo in front and Detroit being in the 7th spot, in my opinion.
3 teams
You're
down,
wrong.
last team to go.
The most exciting team.
Stanley Cup champion.
Wait.
Team number 4.
What team is this? What team is this?
The Florida Panthers, everybody's
Oh.
favorite team in the NHL.
Oh, wait.
Finished 47, 31, and 4 last year, 98 points, 3rd in the Atlantic. They were 11th in the NHL. Goals for, 15th in the NHL. Goals against, 7th. Power play, 13th. Penalty kill, 10th. In the regular season, the team was led by Reinhart, 81, Barkov 71, and Kachuk 57 with injury. So
It does
less
not
games
matter
played.
what they do during the regular season. They're winning the cup.
So yes, Florida
All
is
I
a
can
very
say,
interesting team to talk about because I feel like we are talking about a very similar team to who we were talking about last year, except this year you have Marchand for the whole year. Um, this team is
Dangerous.
very similar, in my opinion, to the team that just won. Um, but I think that you will see some differences in where they play. But I'm gonna open it up and see what you guys think.
all I can say is I wish we didn't have taxes either. That's the only reason they're keeping all these people, and it just doesn't feel fair. I mean, they're just keeping these incredibly high caliber players and not even batting an eyelash. I mean, they got Marchand for another what, like eight?
No.
What was his contract?
Six.
6.
Six. Sorry, but I mean, you got Marchand for another 6 years. You got Sam Bennett, all these people. I mean,
They're taking the
they're
salary cap right now.
as much as I don't want to say it, they're going to be one of the top teams again.
Brad Marchand's a great player, but do you really want him for the next 6 years? He's 37 years old. I love him. He's 37.
Yo, he's gonna be making money in retirement. Hold
I
on.
know. He's gonna be 43 at the end of that contract. Okay, obviously. I mean, you saw the difference. I'm good friends with a guy who's been a Florida Panthers fan for years now. He grew up in Florida. He's been a Panthers fan since the early 2000s, and he said to me when they first hired Paul Maurice that he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure about him. But he is top 3 coaches all time, and I will stand by that. I will stand by that. Statistically, most wins, he is top 3. The last three-peat was the Islanders in 1980 to 1983. Oh my goodness. It's been over 40 years. Like, the chance to get to that point, I mean, you have to have an incredible team to just win 2 in a row. And you saw the closest that I've seen is the Lightning, obviously. But the roster that the Panthers have right now, I see no way that they're not getting to the finals again. Win or lose, I think they're getting to the finals again. They have the talent. They've kept the talent, and they are an incredibly fun team to watch. There's
No
no
offense.
question.
No offense, but I would take any other team in the league to do a three-peat.
Why? You've
I
you've
just don't
seen how
like the Panthers.
Yeah, but you've seen how they destroyed every team.
I'm not saying they won't. I'm just saying I don't want them to.
They could have already done a three-peat, except they lost. But no. But the fact is, they've come from a team who barely made the playoffs and beat the greatest team of all time in the first round. It's like statistically the greatest regular season team of all time. They beat them in the first round, which I hate.
Still seeing flashbacks.
Oh yeah. After I scored that goal, me and my dad, both Bruins fans, we didn't even look at the TV. We just shut it off, and we both went upstairs, stared at the ceiling for about an hour and a half. But a team that can do that, and then 2 years after win the cup, 2 years in a row, they're incredible. They are just phenomenal.
Yeah, okay, you've been yapping a lot. Let me talk. Signed the likes of Petrie, 1-year deal. Don't know how big of a deal that'll be. But who did they lose? No one? They're the exact same team. Looking at the Atlantic, the teams in front of them in the regular season were Toronto and Tampa Bay. 108 for Toronto, 102 for Tampa Bay, and then 98 for Florida. No doubt in my mind that Florida is the number one team in regular season. I think Toronto and Tampa Bay drops off, especially Toronto. The only way I see that not happening is Bobrovsky. I think he's on his last year of a 7-year contract. He's 36. You never know with older goalies. This might be the season that kind of falls off. I think you need him to play good to be the same because that's what they've been doing the past 3 years. That's why they've been so good. Great offense, but great goaltending. And I think that's the only way I see them not being as good as they were if Bobrovsky falls off, goes back a little bit, which, of course, if you're a Florida fan, you hope that doesn't happen, but I think it easily could happen.
I think they will finish first in their division. And I think it's very highly likely that they go to the Cup a third time. And I also find it very highly likely that they win the Cup because I haven't seen that many teams that show they're going to beat them. I mean, there's always factors, but I don't. If anybody beats them, I don't think it will be easy series. And right now, like I just said, I don't see anybody beating them.
Yeah, I think looking at the Atlantic, they're obviously top 3 again. I'm thinking first in the Atlantic. We know they can obviously make a playoff run. They have the experience. We'll have to see what happens. I hope they completely flop. That's my hope.
The Panthers, I think, are going to be top 3. I don't know if they're going to take the number 1 spot. Regular season seems to be very different than playoffs for them. I mean, not completely different, but during the regular season, I mean, it's long, but I think they'll be top 3. I think they might win a cup again. I think least they make a run to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think there's a team at this point that can beat them, but anything can happen in the playoffs. Yeah.
I would kind of a little bit closer to what Nathaniel was saying, but I do not see Florida finishing first, just because of the fact they're not a regular season team. That's nothing against the roster, against anything. Also, not saying that they're going to try to lose games, but they also know they know their way around the playoffs now. So, I honestly, they're going to do what it takes to make the playoffs, and they're built for a playoff team. You get them in the playoffs, and it doesn't matter what position they are in the standings. If they make the playoffs, they're a contender. So, I see them going back to the playoffs, but I don't see them being like a dominant regular season team. I see them as being as good as last year, right around there. But yeah, I don't see. It's tough in the Atlantic because I do think Tampa is going to take a step back, but I don't see them really moving up that much. Yeah, and I see them going deep in the playoffs again, unless you see something happen like Tampa getting swept by Columbus or something like that, which can always happen just randomly. So, but I do think they're going back to the playoffs and will be another team that you got to watch out for making a run. So, yes, this was quite a decently long episode, but first 4 teams of the Atlantic. Yeah, I think it's going to be fun as we wrap up. Next episode, the Montreal Canadiens, Ottawa Senators, Tampa Bay Lightning, and Toronto Maple Leafs to wrap up our coverage of the Atlantic Division. So then we can kind of get a full picture of what we think the Atlantic's going to look like. And those are some intriguing teams as well, as we already touched on. So, yeah, excited for the next episode. And we thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.